Hayauchi Super Ego is not a Freudian psychology game. The ego in the title is the Japanese term for the board game more commonly known as Go elsewhere in the world. The Hayauchi part of the title is actually a little bit trickier. If I wanted to draw direct parallels, I'd actually call it Lightning Super Go. But unless you're familiar with the concept of lightning chess, that's not going to make much sense to you. The board game Go took shape roughly around 500 BCE, and except for a few scoring tweaks, the game we play today is effectively identical to the game played in the court of the Qin Emperor. In Go, players take turns placing stones of their own color into a 19 by 19 grid. If you completely surround your opponent's stones, then you take them away. Play ends with both players pass, typically because there's no place that they could play where their stone wouldn't wind up captured. Your score is the amount of territory that you surround, minus the number of your stones that have been captured, and then there's a small point offset to negate the first player advantage. While the rule set for Go is very simple, playing a game itself is extremely complex. And so it's always proven to be a challenge for AI. To use a comparison, on a turn in chess, there's typically about a dozen reasonable moves. And even a pokey computer can dive down a chain of moves looking for a good outcome. Go, on the other hand, has hundreds of reasonable moves per turn. The search space for a good move is astronomically large in Go, and that made traditional AI approaches not very strong. Computer AIs could occasionally beat chess grandmasters back in the 80s, but it took until 2015 for a Go AI to be able to beat a grandmaster. So the Famicom's little 8-bit processor really isn't up to the task of playing Go. But we've already seen one Go game on the Famicom, Bulletproof Software's Ego-Q Roban Taikyoku. It handled the problem of Go being too complicated for the AI by shrinking the board down to something that it could handle. Namco, on the other hand, has given us our first full-fledged 19 by 19 Go game on the Famicom. In fact, it's the first full-sized Go game on any console. And Namco had two approaches that they used to address the shortfalls of the AI. First, the game is Hayauchi Ego, which is a style of Go where the player only has a few seconds to select a move. You're given 30 seconds as a human, and if you take too long, then the game is over. The other thing is that they seem to have scaled the AI's thought process way down. Now, I'm not very good at Go, even though I enjoy the game. And as I was playing here, I was realizing I was terminally out of practice. So take my comments on the qualities of the AI with a grain of salt. What I was noticing is that the AI tends to focus down on one area and build a very conservative, very solid block of stones. It's not capturing large territory, it's building solid territory. On top of that, it seems to try to prioritize capturing stones, even though it might put it in a weaker position in the end. And I noticed that the AI wasn't very strong tactically. It felt like it focused on one tiny section of the board, instead of the entire landscape. There's 3 modes to the game. One in which you climb a ladder of Go opponents, one in which you play a single match against a mid-range opponent, and one where you can set the parameters any way that you like, including shrinking the board down to 13 by 13. While Hayauchi Super Ego is an impressive technical achievement, getting something this playable on a Famicom cart was not a trivial task. I can't really say it's worth playing, though. When my novice Go player eyes can see the seams in the AI programming, it's not a game that will interest even amateurs. If you want to get a feel for the board game, Ego-Q Roban Taikyoku is a better way to do it. The board may be scaled down, but the game plays better. For Hayauchi Super Ego, it's neat that they made it, but just because they made it doesn't make it good.